in 2016, 17, I attended NARPM, and that's when I actually figured out that this property management business is worth something. Oh boy, it's a wholesaler. Here we go. So Jamie's better at this than what I do, and that's why I hired Jamie, is because I can't do that as good as Jamie does. And as soon as I hang up, I'll send them the video of me walking around the property. Hey, I was in the air. I know the crossover was, I had this much debt, and at the time I knew what companies were going for. I spend 4 hours a week on Homevestors. I have a buyer and I have a coordinator, so I don't do any of the day-to-day. I show up at projects and say, you guys are awesome.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Evernest Property Management Show. Today, we're joined by a true staple in the Columbus, Ohio real estate market, Mitch Deinsky. Mitch is the definition of a full-cycle entrepreneur. After a successful exit in the telecom world in the 90s, he turned his focus to real estate, eventually building solutions for real estate into a property management powerhouse with over 550 doors. In 2022, he sold that business to Poplar Homes. And as y'all know, we bought Poplar Homes, bringing our professional relationship full circle. Beyond property management, Mitch is a seasoned Homevestor franchisee, so he and I share that, and a dedicated mentor who helps other investors find it, fix it, and fill it. Mitch, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, guys. A pleasure. Honored to be here. So let's go.
Well, one of the things people need to know about you, too, is you're also a huge Ohio State Buckeye fan.
I am the Ohio State Buckeye fan, yes.
Like a true Ohio State fan?
Not only
get it right.
Not only did I go there, but I actually graduated when it was easy to get in. But, yeah, big fan. We try and stick around here as much as we can in the fall, and then we head down to Siesta Key to watch down there. So, yeah, big fan.
Well, Columbus is an awesome market. And, I got to spend some time up there when we were buying our first business up there. And so it's just a great investment market, super unique. And so excited to talk to you about your journey and your investment journey. To get started, you actually didn't start in the real estate business. As I said in the intro, you started in the telecom business. Tell us, what did you do in telecom?
All right, get ready for this one. So back in 1990, there was these two guys. I sold long distance service real quick, and they started this new technology. It was automated operators, and had the ability to collect calls only. So we were installing inmate payphones throughout Ohio, Michigan, and West Virginia.
So you installed the payphones in, I guess, prisons and correctional facilities that the inmates would then collect to their family or whoever they were calling.
Yes.
And how did you make money? Did you make money on the installation, or was it you got a percentage of the payphone?
So it was pretty interesting. So we would actually approach a county jail and say, hey, sheriff, because they weren't getting any money at this time. So we tell the sheriff, say, hey, we're going to install this equipment. It's about, $40,000, $50,000 worth of equipment. And what we're going to do is we're going to pay you based on the revenues that we collect. And it was kind of a slam dunk for any correctional facility, because it was extra revenue for training or, equipment for the inmates. And we caught fire over the next basically 2 or 3 years. We ended up getting 35 contracts. I kind of bought my way into it. I told them I would sell 100 doors. See, I'm talking doors now. 100 phones, 100 phones within the first year, and I got it done in about 4 months. And it actually pulled me off the streets and started getting involved with installs and customer service and billing. So it was just me and 2 other guys being scrappy, and we had maybe 2 other employees, and we saw there was a roll up happening in that industry real quick, and we saw an opportunity to get out. So 2 months before we ended up selling, I'm like, well, what am I going to do next? And I was like anybody else. I looked at Subway or whatever, and I'm watching late night television. You guys remember Carlton Sheets?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Great.
So,
He's too young. His dad was probably watching it while he was feeding him late at night.
Right. So I'm watching it, and of course the commercial is, I made 600,000 in 18 months, and I just felt like there's something to this real estate thing, and I'm pretty handy anyway, so I dove all in to try and learn about real estate before we sold. And then in 96, when we did sell, I ended up moving to Kansas City, and we started having a family, and we felt like we wanted to get closer to home. My wife Susie's from just north of Lansing, Michigan, and I thought it would be. I grew up in Cleveland, the west side of Elyria, and I felt Columbus was going to be close enough that our parents had to call us and not just show up. So
it was a split the difference.
That's right. Yeah. And we were away from the lake a little bit because the weather's a little bit different up there. But I heard good things about Columbus. And in 98, we moved here. We built a house. My son was born. I bought a 24 unit and a 15 unit in the first 4 months of getting here.
That's great. And so you obviously went to school in Columbus, but how did you decide, obviously, going to school in a place and then investing in a place are two totally different things. How did you decide what properties to buy?
Well, I just knew I started on campus, actually. I thought I wanted to go on campus. And it wasn't so much as investing in Columbus. It was more of, my sister actually moved here also. And it was just more about family and starting a family. I knew I was going to get in real estate. I didn't know if Columbus was a good market or not. I just assumed everywhere was. And so I started on campus and found out that I hated it.
It's like student housing on campus housing?
Oh, it's terrible. I bought a building that was probably needed more work than I could handle. And, if you're going to do stuff on campus or any kind of student housing, you might as well have 200 units down there because you're always down there. There's babysitting. You got the helicopter moms you got to take care of. And it's just, here comes Michigan weekend. So it's not fun. And it's turnover. There's a lot of turnover. And that's when I started buying single family because tenants stay longer.
We talk about single family property management being hard. Student is another level.
I cannot imagine summers in student housing. That would
talking to those guys brutal. In Boulder, it's just you got 1 week and all the turns and all the parents. And there's that guy on X who manages homes in South Carolina.
I wish I could think of his name because he's absolutely hilarious talking about student housing.
This is reminding me of all of the stories of the moms and the frat parties and the big football day weekends. I can understand why you'd want to get away from that.
Yeah, it was just not what I signed up for. And be honest, I was probably undercapitalized and just had an opportunity to buy out a builder that was selling 3 model homes and 4 lots. And all we had to do is clean them up. And then we ended up back when lease options and land contracts were a big deal. This is 2000 now. And we got them filled or sold in like 30 days. And I'm like, I don't hear from them. This is great. That's it. All right, let's buy the next one.
That's great. And so that's how you got started into SFR investing.
Yes. Sir.
And what year was that?
So it was within a year after I started. So that's 99 when I started my single family portfolio.
That's great. That was a good time to start because there was a run through the early 2000s that ultimately ended in destruction. We'll have to find out how. For me, it ended in destruction, but we'll find out for you how it did. So, tell me about your flipping career as you went through the early 2000s. You started to buy and sell houses. Did you keep any of those houses, Mitch?
I was not. I was a buy and hold guy. I didn't start flipping till 2018.
Oh, nice. So
Yeah.
you were just accumulating rentals.
Those flippers, man, all those wholesalers, I ain't dealing with those guys. That was my mentality. I just, and it was more of ignorance and not understanding how they did things. But I was just I was the tortoise, man. I was just slow and steady and just started buying properties and holding them.
And if this is too personal, but I know a lot of people, the way I got in was I was flipping houses and would start to acquire rentals. How did you like, was the exit from the last business basically paying for your life while you slowly accumulated these rentals?
Yes, sir. Yeah, it was, I mean, in 2016, when my son graduated high school, my wife was our accountant here, and so I just felt like we needed to do something fresh. And I said, I got to go really learn the business. And I just feel like I always felt like we were ahead. We were always ahead of Peter Lohman, but I just felt like we were. Shout out to Peter. I always felt
obligatory Peter Lohman shout out. That's right.
Yes.
We can't get through a whole podcast without mentioning.
Do you get more views if you mention Peter Lohman?
For sure.
Okay.
It's definitely clickbait.
No, he's going to buy me lunch next week, so that's what I'm shooting
go
for.
somewhere expensive because that guy's got plenty of money, and don't let him lie to you about it.
Got it. So, what was I headed? I can't remember.
You were just talking about you started accumulating rentals and versus because I had asked you the question about how did you support yourself while you were buying rentals?
Yeah. So I got approached by my property manager about starting a brokerage in 2001. And that's when Solutions for Real Estate started. And we were buying stuff together. And I knew for a fact that my partner at the time wasn't keeping up. And I think that's any partnership. There's always somebody that doesn't feel the other person's keeping up. But we ended up building the sales side of our real estate brokerage. We had like 52 agents when the market tanked in 2008, and then we slashed that in half. But meanwhile, we were really good at finding deals for investors. So we only managed for the people that we managed for, that we helped buy. And we probably had 130 doors at the time when the market crashed, and thank God it did. I ended up buying out my partner in 2007, and took on a new partner at that time. And but going back to 2000, we went through 2008 and 9 and 10, and we got those accidental landlords, and we just kind of floated through and slowly started building. But when in 2016, 17, I attended NARPM, and that's when I actually figured out that this property management business is worth something because no one was really buying that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Right. So we ended up, I'm like, honey, this is actually worth something. And like I said, we were right around 300 doors. And this was when, all the marketing stuff was going on back then, and blogging and how that all worked together. They Ask, You Answer, which was a great book. And all of a sudden we started kicking in, and we grew that thing. And probably the most important part was the policy and procedure manual, just putting that in place. And it just really allowed us to leverage what our employees were doing. And it just made it easier to add people on because you can just carve out things. No, this is how we do it. Jamie doesn't do this anymore. You're going to be the maintenance person. I'm going to do turns over to somebody else and just splitting it up and kind of growing it out as we went.
Yeah, we always talk about as you start out, you're a generalist. Like you were doing everything, Mitch, and then as you started to grow the business, it sounds like you got to the point where people had to specialize and you started to put people and make sure that people stay in their lane. One thing I'm curious about, I would like to go back one because I think it's super important, is just your strategy around growing the business. You were helping investors buy houses versus marketing your services to other people. Did you ever market your services to other people, even in the late 2000s?
Not really. I mean, it wasn't until it was just word of mouth. We did
Yeah.
a lot of word of mouth. We weren't paying. We did a little bit of what was that property management? We were buying leads.
Yep.
I can't remember that company. We did that for a little while, but if you're in the bathroom, you're not getting that call. So there's not a lot of drop the fork. You have to drop the fork and take the call, right?
Yep.
So,
but I think that's important because Gray and I have been talking about that some now. Is that's a great way to grow your property management business, is to help investors buy houses. We've done it in the past. We're actually thinking about doing some of that here again, Mitch. We have all the services in house. We have the brokerage team, the renovation team. We have things that we can do for individual investors, but holding their hand, holding new investors' hands, just a great way to stand up a business, and then they sort of rely on you, right? And they're kind of beholden to your property management company.
yeah, I mean, what a great way to build trust. I mean, can we take a minute and I can tell you how I found Homevestors and how I incorporated it in mine?
That'd be great.
Yeah.
All right. So I don't know what it was in 2017. It just seemed like we were starting to get all of our calls from California. People, and I don't know if it hit on the bigger pockets or something, that Columbus was a hot market. Obviously, I went on bigger pockets and started answering questions for people when you see Columbus show up. But a lot of people call me saying, "Man, where are all the off-market deals?" It's getting, at least one every other week. And I had this guy that I met. His name's Jeff Holtz. And I met him at a networking event, and he said, "Hey, I'm looking for a property management company." I'm like, "Okay, let's talk." And he goes, "Yeah, I want to build my rental portfolio. I just don't know what to buy here in Columbus." And I said, "Well, how are you getting these deals?" He said, "Well, I belong to this franchise called Homevestors." I'm like, "Oh boy, it's a wholesaler. Here we go." So, so we met like 3 or 4 times, and he told me at that time, he's like, "Man, you should do this." I'm like, "Man, I'm not. I got a business over here. I am good." So I'm a buy and hold guy. I'm not a flipper. So still, again, I'm still getting calls on these off-market deals, and I told him, he finds me a deal. He said, "Hey, are you interested in this deal?" I'm like, "Yeah." So I go over to this property, and he says, "Hey, good news and bad news." I said, "What's that?" He goes, "Well, the good news is you're still going to do the work. The bad news is I should probably keep this property, right?" I said, "Yeah, you should probably keep this one." So he told me how much he was going to sell it to me. And I said, "Well, I know you're going to sell it to me for this, but what did you get it for?" And it was like 30 grand less, and he probably owned it 2 days. And I'm like, "Hold on. What is this place called? Homevestors?" So this is what it was. This is what ended up happening. I was able to offer these deals to investors before they got fixed, if they wanted to use their own people, or I can offer it turnkey with a tenant. Okay, and I would even do a warranty on the house. I would do like a 30-day warranty or something like that if anything broke or whatever. So I was able to not only make money on the repairs, but also I had an exit plan already in place for the properties that I wanted to manage. I wasn't going to be in D-class areas or student housing. Okay. So that's an advantage I had over other PMs. No one else is, I haven't met anybody else that's actually offering that. But also I have the ability to control 1031 exchanges. So if I knew when somebody was selling, with our clients, we had the ability to say, hey, I got this property coming up, but we got to find another property for them to move into. And once we were able to do that and found one that fit them, we were able to kind of time those things out. Because, they're very hard to time up, those
Yeah.
1031s. Okay. So by doing that, we were able to find it for them. We could fix it up for them. And then we were able to fill it, with finding the tenant. So it was a nice byproduct of it. Around all of it was I was able to pay off my portfolio a lot quicker, like by years, because I just threw my money after, paying off my debt or my 401k, whatever we want to call it.
And Mitch, so you treated your property management business almost like an investment management business. You were helping coordinate with investors. How do you think, is there a size property management business where it outgrows your ability to give them that high touch customer service that you gave them?
I know it's more than 550. So
That's great.
Yeah, and it was, and you got to have great people. You guys know this. I was able to find great people and give them the resources to go ahead and make decisions on behalf of the company. And when people would call me, because you always get those calls where I got to talk to Mitch. I got to talk to Mitch. And, my first response is, what did Jamie tell you? What did Josh tell you? And of course, I made a rule. I never talked to an owner that was calling me. I always sent it to voicemail until I figured out what was going on. Now, I always called them back immediately once I knew, but I wanted to hear our side of the story because sometimes you get caught up. But typically what would happen is they'd say, yeah, Jamie said this, and well, what do you think about that? I go, that's exactly what I would have done. So I was trying to gain my clients' trust in my employees that, what, Jamie's better at this than what I do, and that's why I hired Jamie, is because I can't do that as good as Jamie does. So stick with Jamie. Obviously, you can still call me, but that's what she's there for.
Double click on that. One of the things that as business owners, you want to get to the point where the business kind of runs without you, right? So how did you, that was one scenario, but how did you think about separating yourself from the business maybe in other ways?
Obviously finding out what my employees needed. And I think KPIs really helped. Once you got your procedures, what gets measured gets managed. And we started this meeting called the WAT meeting. What about this? What about that? And, the KPIs, it was a one pager. It wasn't like some huge production of, even when people are like, KPIs, what are you talking about? It was basic stuff. How many rentals do we have open right now? Do we have any open work orders? How many do we have open over 14 days? Where are we doing on our projects for turns? Those are basic stuff that you can pull right off your management software at any given time. So when we had our Thursday WAT meeting, everybody would come prepared. And if your numbers were off, because everybody knew where their number, that range they had to be, if you had a work order open for 14 days, you better have answers because you didn't want to be, put in your place by everybody else. You're like, hey, I'm waiting for this, or why don't you have the answer? So no one wants to look, bad in a meeting, of course. So all of a sudden it would kind of police itself. And once we got to that point, and again, taking these owner calls, I always called it, getting called to the principal's office. If I get a call from the owner, something is wrong. And that means that the answer that they're getting is not an answer that they like, or it's so bad that, they feel like I need to know, which is never good. But.
And how big of a team did you end up growing, Mitch?
So my wife was all the money coming in and out, so accounting. I had 1, 2, 3, 4 full-time employees, and then the rest were part-time. So I did have a part-time utility girl. All she did was utilities. Turn everything on, turn everything off, and tracking down. As you guys know, utilities is a beast.
Mm-hmm. And you built, if you built a lot of it through kind of helping people buy their portfolios, you probably ended up with a lot of intentional investors. You might have started off with accidental landlords. Talk about the differences that you see kind of managing there. Because I think it's great you build a lot of trust, but there's a lot of relationship. But they might have that with you. So like, what were the differences you saw with the investors that you managed for versus kind of, they might own 1 or 2 homes?
Accidental landlords, obviously, they're just waiting to sell them at a future date. And they might hang on to it because it's been really easy, or should I say, we made it really easy for them. But your other investors, the ones that are starting, we had a few investors that, had over, I would say probably 20 clients that had over 10 properties that we helped them get to, was they're trying to get either, they know they should do real estate, but they don't know where to go next. And I think that's probably the disconnect. Hey, I want to do it, but I don't want to watch late night television and buy these books and tapes. They want to know where the rubber meets the road, where someone has been there and they know, they understand the market and they understand what they even look for in a house, let alone what needs to get done and make it a good rental home. So I think it's, a little bit of hand-holding and education for those investors, but their goals are a little bit different than the accidental landlords.
And those intentional investors can be the best clients, because especially the ones that don't want to do this full time and they don't want to be super in the details, and they trust, hey, buy this property, and they will buy the property, fix it to this level, fix it to this level. And they're fairly hands off. So we've got clients like that we've managed for a long time. It's like a really good partnership. And I think having a brokerage is a great way to do it. There's a lot of property managers that for some reason don't go the home investors route. You're actually the first one I've heard about kind of integrating home investors into their PM business. But I think people don't want to turn off that agent referral lead source, which is one of the reasons why they don't start that brokerage. That was we didn't do that for a long time because we didn't want to stop those referrals, but we just found we made more money, but also created deeper relationships with our clients whenever we did. So it's interesting that a lot of people don't. And I think I understand why, but I think more people should explore kind of doing what you did the way you built it with investors.
Who else are you going to trust if you weren't buying, obviously a property manager, what's renting, what tenants are looking for. So, and in my case, I was an owner myself. So that was always my pitch. I'm like, look, I'm an owner myself. I wouldn't buy this. You don't need to buy this. So one of the things that really helped me was when a property, and you guys might want to run with this one. I love this one. When I had people call me about, hey, I'm thinking about growing my portfolio. I'm with this ABC company right now and it's not going well. And of course you ask, well, what's going on? Well, I'll get in the car and I'll have that address up and I'll drive to that property. And as soon as I hang up, I'll send them the video of me walking around the property. Hey, I was in the air. I know that we just called. But while you're here, as you can see, the siding's going off, and I plan on or this is a great rental, or you might want to have them look at this, and I'm, man, love to work with you. Just a quick
Yeah.
video, thank you, and just that, and it's like I've had so many people coming back. I'm like, you're in. When do I sign up? This is awesome. I can't get anybody to the property. I mean, it's not that hard.
I love that. It's like
I do too.
Do
You're
things
like
that don't scale.
Yeah, and you're immediately adding value. I mean,
Yeah.
it's really something that could scale though if you have a business development person in each market, just riding by the property and touching it and shooting a video.
But that would be
I
the
love it.
feedback. But those leads, I have to assume, close it way higher than what you
Way
normally
higher.
would. Yeah.
Yeah.
Way higher.
If you did 10 or 15 of those a month, you would probably
over
get
15.
another 5 to 10 doors.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that if you were out and about anyway, any BDM that's out there, a lot of them do other things too. A lot of them are leasing managers or whatever. You just drive by, just a quick picture or something.
You reminded me of something you talked about. The property manager helps people make some of the best investment decisions. We bought a business one time from a lady who said, you date your agent, but you marry your property manager.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a great way of saying, look, I'm stuck with this house, so I'm not going to let you make a bad decision. Your agent, they're just going to date you. And if they sell you a house and it doesn't work out, they're probably going to blame the property manager. But
right. We're married.
I'm
man.
stuck with this. That's right.
Right. We're married. So, this is not a transaction. This is transitional. This is day one to we get to your goals.
So you built a pretty good business that sounded like it helped make a bunch of money, that helped pay off your debts. Go to NARPM in 2016, you realize it's worth something. Maybe walk us through when you started thinking about exiting and selling.
Yeah. Actually going through NARPM and doing everything again, our website, our systems and all that stuff. I got rejuvenated, I got energy, at this point, I'm coming up on 20 years in 2018 doing it. That's a long time in this business. And I do not color my hair, but it is gray coming in. And make sure that I still had some color in my hair, when I don't want to die at work, right? So the crossover was I had this much debt, and at the time I knew what companies were going for. So much of net or so much of gross. So I had an idea of when I was going to be ready, because every year that was going by, my debt was going down, so I'm getting closer. So it wasn't until it was going to cross over where I had all my properties paid off, and by the way, it's 33, and then had a certain amount in the bank. That was the crossover. Once I hit that, I'm like, I'm out.
So you decided it was just a net type deal. Once you decided, and was it just the pain of the day-to-day dealing with all the issues of owning a property management business that sent you over, or how would you think about that?
Yeah, I love what I did. We helped a lot of people. A lot of these people are my friends still. I think most of them are. And it was time. It was time.
Is life easier on the other side, Mitch?
Yes.
Asking for a friend.
Welcome to the dark side. Yeah, it is easier. So I will say, so when we finally put a deal together, I think it was really important for my clients to that they were taken care of. Obviously, again, these are my friends, and I have properties that we're going to stay with, Poplar Homes, and it was important that the transition was seamless, and I wanted to stick around and make sure that it was. And fortunately, all my employees stayed on too. It was positioned to me from Poplar that and we ran a really tight ship, and they really liked their numbers. They liked the quality of, Google reviews were, right where they needed to be. 4.2, I think, is where we ended up, point one above Peter Lohman. And I think that it was just, I really wanted to make sure that they were taken care of. And it was presented to me like, we want to learn what you are doing. Let's go take this nationwide. And I'm like, good. Well, I need help with resources, and they're selling me on the remote team member part of it, and I understood where that was, where that needed to be, and I just, I had my ideas, and it just never worked out that way. So,
yeah. Talk about, for people that are sitting in your shoes, back in 21, 22, what do you think people should know about selling their business? What advice do you have for those folks?
So I thought I would be like the best employee if you hired me. And this actually happened with the telecom company that I sold to. I was a true believer in customer service, and I think everything else just falls into place. It makes mistakes so much easier to get over, because, as you guys know, in property management, you do as much as you can to do everything right, and sometimes things are out of your control, no matter how you explain it to an owner. And we're building up this integrity account, building, and sometimes we have to make a withdraw. And hopefully we build it up enough that we don't lose the trust of a client. Yeah. And I just felt like, man, that was probably the most important part that I learned. But I also, once we did end up selling, and then I quit Poplar Homes to just kind of take a break. It was about 4 months into it where I finally felt like I took a deep breath, that it wasn't always on. I didn't know I was always on, but you're always on in this business. Always. So, plan to go to your kid's Little League game, and then you're standing on third base taking care of a call, and, he misses the steal sign,
Yeah. It's funny. I actually, while I was late, I missed a meeting with somebody. And so I rebooked it. I've got to take my son to hitting practice, and it takes 45 minutes to get there tonight. So I rebooked it during that 45 minutes. Now, look, it's not like we're going to carry on a great conversation. He's going to be on his phone the whole time.
Sure.
But to your point, you're always on in this business. And so, at what point do you stop wanting to always be on? And there are some times, where I've taken vacations, and there's days in the middle of the vacation where you actually turn off. And that is an interesting feeling. I actually had that during the holidays this past year.
But it takes like 3 or 4 days. Because what you've told me, it takes a couple of days to kind of burn off.
It was so amazing though, because there have been periods of time where I've turned it off, and my body is just like so relaxed, but also so tired. You don't realize too much being on, like, I think energy begets energy, and you kind of like, you don't realize how hard we're burning it, doing this. Yeah. So,
and this business is hard, man. I mean, it's funny because people are like, "Hey, is your son interested in, taking over the business?" And I'm like, he's too smart for that.
He's way too bright for that. Yeah, my kids are too.
I don't want him in that.
That's right.
And Mitch, did you talk to other people? Were you like looking to sell, or were you approached by Poplar?
So I was going to NARPM. I talked to Evernest. I talked to a few people. And, I probably would get a call like once every 4 months saying, hey, you're
Hmm.
interested in selling? And I always said yes, because I wanted to understand the process. There's a great um, podcast out there and a book called Built to Sell. You guys ever heard of it?
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
have.
Man, it really helped you just kind of guide you on being ready. You should always be ready to sell. I mean, when we started our due diligence after our LOI with Poplar, um, they gave us a list of everything that they wanted, and it's this long. And I think we had it in front of them in a day and a half. And they're like, "Well, we don't discuss this stuff for another week and a half, and I can't believe you have it done already." And I think it's like an investor going to a bank, and say, "Hey, I need to borrow money for my investment property." Have your tax returns, have your statements, the the subject property and all that stuff. Make it easy for someone to want to work with you. I think that was I think that kind of really set them back, and I think it really helped with negotiating the top dollar for our company.
That's great. And so on the backside, what are you doing today? What is I know you're still involved with home investors. What does a day in the life of Mitch look like these days?
You know, um, I spend 4 hours a week on home investors. I have a buyer and I have a coordinator. So I don't do any of the day to day. I show up at projects and say, "You guys are awesome." And I manage half of my portfolio right now. So that's the other 4 hours. So um, not much. I probably work 3 or 4 hours a day, maybe. Um, Working out, trying to keep it all together. Um, that's it, man.
That's great. You
Yeah.
basically do what you want to do. The
Yes,
3 to 4 hours
absolutely.
of work it sounds like you still enjoy that.
I do work, and I did when I first got done. I got approached by Keller Williams to do a training video. I did a training series actually uh, on why real estate agents should be investors. The whole purpose of it was to um, for agents, if they were working with a investor, they would take my course and be trained and ready to go. So the agent would walk right in and say, "All right, you took the class. I don't have to teach you that whole part of it. And now let's go start looking for properties."
That's awesome. And it does take a different type of agent to be an investor agent, we found. And
Yes.
Evernest has a number of investor agents, and it's just so hard to find those folks.
Yeah. Yeah. They're out there. I think a lot of investors are agents, and I think they do it obviously to save commission when they buy a property or sell a property. But I think they also want to backfill with clients that are looking for stuff too.
We're kind of in an interesting time for investors. What are you seeing in the real estate market, and who's buying? What are some strategies people are doing?
And are you buying?
Yeah, I'm on my third one this year already. It's only
Really?
been 2 months. Yeah, it's starting off to be a great year. I typically the last 2 or 3 years I've probably been averaging 8 to 12. Um, but the what I'm seeing right now, I always felt like people were paying too much for properties. Again, we were buying properties in '01, so when it
It's
was,
hard to unsee that.
it is hard. However, people want to buy that or whatever. So with home investors, we're seeing deals that no one else is seeing. I think a lot of wholesalers are dropping out because they can't uh, make the numbers work from a finance side. So we're seeing a few of them drop out, but we're getting deals, and I feel like home investors is really driven the brand nationally that really help us when they say, when they look up "We Buy Ugly Houses," we're pretty dominant, and that just gives credibility when you walk in the door and sit down with a seller. And just getting those houses that people, whether they're hoarding houses, we've gotten a lot of people that have listed their house and they're not selling in 3 weeks. We'll get calls because people are not used to stuff taking so long to sell. Obviously, it's going longer now. So the deals that I've gotten lately are ones that are just they don't have the money to fix them up. So they just feel like they should call someone like me.
And Mitch, as we wrap this thing up, like if somebody wanted to reach out and connect, you're in Columbus, Ohio. What's the best way for them to do that?
They can email me. They can, email me at mitchdeminski.com or at Gmail, mitchdeminski@gmail.com.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, Mitch, this has been great. I mean, it's really awesome to see somebody that's seen it from the brokerage standpoint, seen real estate from the property manager standpoint. That is an investor. You just have seen a lot of different things, and we thought it would be exciting to have you on the show. And I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with everyone.
Thank you, guys. It was a blast. Had fun.
All right, everybody, that's it for this edition of the Evernest Property Management Show. We'll see you in 2 weeks with our next episode. Bye, everybody.